Okay, everyone, thank you very much for joining. I think while we wait for a couple other people to log on, we can go over a couple of administrative aspects before we delve into the content. So Just if you can go to the next slide for me. So a couple of things before we get started. This webinar will be approximately 20 minutes. It will be recorded and you will have access to the recording afterwards. All attendees will be muted, so you'll only be able to see us, the presenters, and the panelists. We will have a Q&A section at the end of the presentation. So if you have questions during the presentation, please post them, and your questions will be collected in the Q&A window for us, and we'll make sure to answer them after the presentation. And if necessary, we can obviously always follow up and answer it in more detail. So now that we have that out of the way, let me introduce our presenters for today. Let's see that on the next slide. My name is Vlad. I am an IoT consultant, currently leading our go-to-market activities in the USA. I am joined today by my colleague Neil, who is the Westernacher global lead of the warehouse practice, and Just, who is our senior warehousing consultant with over 10 years of experience in the field. Now that we've introduced ourselves, let's take a look at the agenda. So I will do the first part, and just if you can show the next slide, I will introduce the first component and talk about a little bit about the IoT introduction and how SAP offerings relate to that. Then Just will introduce the Connected Forklift Solution, which is, as you can see here, it has recently become an SAP qualified solution, and of which we're very proud. He will discuss the benefits of IoT when integrated with SAP EWM, and will show a system demo of the actual solution, which I'm guessing is why most of you are here today. Then Neil will talk about our vision for how we will grow and develop the solution in the upcoming months. What we are also very lucky with is we are joined by Sachin Riaz, the CIO of Balsharaf Group, which has recently implemented SAP EWM with Westernacher, and who will provide some end user perspective on the potential of the Connected Forklift Solution. So it's not just us talking to you about it, so that you also get some perspective from the customer side. So that being said, let's get started on the next slide by examining the business value that IoT brings to an organization. So these points are consistent across any really IoT initiative, so they're worth mentioning at the beginning just so that we're all on the same page. Yep, perfect. So then let's go to one slide further than that. So there's really three components to this. So it brings incredible amounts of new data that wasn't previously available to the organization. The next thing that happens is you're able to take advantage of smart algorithms to make sense of the data and suggest improvements. And what the third component is that there's an integration of data that was previously siloed within an organization. I mean, for example, it can incorporate physical asset data, business information such as sales orders or forecasts, that kind of thing, with IT data, with the processes going directly on your shop floor. And what that means altogether is that as an organization, you're able to make better and faster decisions. And as you see that we've highlighted on the next slide, is what that really comes down to is you're able to embark on a cycle of continuous improvement. And in the best case, as with the example of the connected forklift that we will discuss today, it allows to automate much of the manual processes within your supply chain. Now, on the next slide, when we talk about the supply chain as Westernacher, we think about the whole end-to-end process. In very simplified terms, we view this as a four-step process starting with production, then warehouse, then transportation, and after sales. Now, you'll see on the next slide that for the purposes of today's webinar, we will focus on warehousing, on the warehousing component of the process, and discuss the benefit of IoT specifically within this context. Now, on the next slide, we talk about a little bit what SAP has to offer in this space. So SAP has developed what it calls a bimodal architecture approach to the innovation topics. So where you have the digital core of the classic SAP solutions that keep the business running. So think of your classic warehousing and transportation systems, CRM, finance modules, etc. And now these become enhanced by the digital innovation solutions, which allow you to take your processes really to the next level. The idea isn't that you're replacing your digital core with all these innovation topics, but rather that you're empowering your original functionality with new innovative solutions in the area of machine learning, AI, obviously IoT, and in this case, you get a connected supply chain. What we always stress, and you can see that on the next slide, is that for IoT, rather than looking at individual IoT Leonardo applications, such as, for example, here you see vehicle insights for connected fleets, or connected goods for connected products, or your global track and trace, what you see on the next slide is what's really important to understand is that these come within the context of a broader integrated supply chain. So think about not only just how these applications are alone, but how they integrate with your IBP modules, with EWM, with your TM, that kind of thing. For the purposes of this conversation, we mean that to achieve a connected warehouse, you need to integrate it on one hand side, the business logic that's already present in SAP EWM, with the live sensor data that can only be found within SAP Leonardo. Now, in general, with connected warehousing, and I think we've talked about this before in different webinars, is you can get different aspects like a connected silo, connected inventory, and obviously connected forklift. And I think you'll see, we highlight this on the next slide, is that for today's purposes, we will really focus on this connected forklift aspect and really try to understand what IoT brings for these operations and how it can help them, your specific warehouses. And I think with that, I will hand it over back to Joost.
Thank you. So we move now actually to the connected forklift. And for that, we have a partnership with KINEXON. KINEXON is founded in 2012 in the headquarters in Munich. And they specialize actually in the motion sensing solutions, the precision localization. They have big teams like the NFL and the NBA. And now we are partnering up with them to have them like more or less gathering the information on forklift positioning, tracking, and visualization. The registration of the workers, for example, but also the running time of the forklift and the utilization. So for the demo, what we're going to do, we have a little warehouse technology. So if you integrate this into the EWM part, then you have a few achievements and benefits. Transparency on the movements of the forklift trucks, as you can see here. I will show it in a bit. And the achieving of higher degree of automation based on the geofencing. And what we mean with that is that we're going to show here that we're moving the forklift trucks throughout the warehouse. And when you move from bin to bin, which is a bin is this the localization, the geofencing, then in the background, for example, you can post the warehouse tasks automatically. So we integrate it and we automate processes. So now we jump into the demo. And for that, I'm going to zoom into the outbound area here. There we are. And we can see that forklift truck number 5 is placed there. And we can see here that we have 2 lanes with bins. So we have a lane 1 and we have a lane 2 and we have a door. And we divided the lane 1 into 20 bins, same as for lane number 2. And here we have our loading app. So we're in the outbound section and we're going to load a transportation unit. So here again, we see lane number 1 with the bins. And the bins contain handling units. And we have to move them to a door. And that's what we're going to do. So I'm switching now to the system. We have here our SAP system, and I created TU, two TUs, number 303 in the end and number 304 in the end. The TUs, they contain handling units. Here are 5 handling units, here are 4 handling units. And we can see here the storage bins where they are placed. The same storage bins as in the picture I just showed. So if we're going to grab our app with that, and I will just refresh the screen for a little bit, that you can see that it's pure the RFUI, the standard RFUI, and we extended the RFUI with our own loading IoT app. So here, actually the handling units, which you can see here in the outbound section, are also placed here because, for example, on bin number 20, here, bin number 20, we have handling unit number 117, and you can see here also 117 is in the app, and we have to move it to the door. So this is pure on localization. The forklift truck is going to move now to storage bin number 20, and I have to simulate that. So here I have a few tabs open where I can say to the system, hey, let me go to bin 20. So now the forklift truck is there. The forklift truck is going to pick up handling unit number 117. And when we do that, of course, the forklift truck is going to move out of the local of the zone of bin number 20. So yeah, we made it. How do you do that? So we chose therefore that we make it, for example, green. So now the system knows that the forklift truck moved away from bin number 20 and now will move to door number 1 to place the pallet for the transportation to be loaded. Of course, I can say to the system, go to the door directly and everything will be fine. But of course, the forklift truck driver can, for example, just accidentally move to the wrong door. So if we make, instead of door number 1, door number 2, and we send that, then the system will say, hey, you are at the wrong door. You have to move to door number 1 because there the warehouse task will be confirmed. So if we then move to the correct door, so I change it in here, and I place again send. There we are, the forklift truck pallet has placed the pallet inside door number 1. So without actually confirming the warehouse task, and everything in the background via the localization, via the geofencing, also the warehouse task is confirmed, because if I go to the system and I press the refresh button, then you can see actually that the door number 20 is free again and that the handling unit has been placed into the door. So we're moving back to the presentation and we go to the plans for 2019.
So hopefully you found, the session so far informative. One of the things that I need to mention is that recently this connected forklift product from Westernacher was certified by SAP. And obviously, we're really excited with what we've done in 2018. And we do have more plans, how we're going to extend this and branch this out into other parts of the warehouse in 2019. So there's 2 elements which we're going to look at in 2019. The first part is around the integration of the connected forklift on the dashboard, which you can see here, with the SAP Connected Worker Safety product. So we'll be working closely with SAP over the next year to integrate the connected forklift to the Connected Worker Safety app. In terms of the execution within the warehouse, as you've seen there from the example from Used, from a hands-free perspective, we can now, load handling units, pallets from the staging area onto the truck without scanning or voice or any recognition like that. And we will be extending that out, into other parts of the warehouse, put away replenishment, repacking, and internal movements. So this isn't just a concept. This is actually, you know, a full rollout of a hands-free warehouse operation by the end of 2019.
The one question, so I'm just seeing one come up now. The question is as to the degree of accuracy within the measurements. So I think, and that's very fair, and I think that's often very much the first concern, because behind all this, there needs to be very accurate location positioning. And so what we've tested with KINEXON and what we've seen work is it's within an area of 20 centimeters.
You know, at this point, I would just like to thank you all for attending. You can see our contact details there on the screen now. So, you know, if anyone's got any further questions or would like to look into this further for your, you know, for your business, you know, please feel free to reach out to Vlad, Just, or myself.